Okay guys, so today is my brick session. Really looking forward to this one. This is 2 hours 10 in the saddle into a 30-minute run at race pace. So in this 2 hour 10, most of it wants to be all in the TT position, so I can get comfortable kind of being in that position for extended durations. And then within that 2 hours 10, I want to try and complete 3 10-minute intervals at above race pace. So what I'm thinking at the moment is my race pace is going to be around the 210 to 220 watts. So I'm going to try and aim for 210 watts in the first round, maybe 220 in the second round, see how that feels, and then maybe push a little bit more to maybe like 225, or I'll just stick at 220. So we're going to play it by feel. I'm still feeling pretty rough, but I wasn't feeling rough enough to not train. So I definitely slept a lot better last night. So my Garmin training readiness is at 41, so it's in the low range still, so not ideal, but my sleep was up in the 80 percentile, and I did feel like I felt like I had a good night's sleep, if that makes sense. But anyway, let's crack on with this since we've got quite a lot of cycling ahead. I'll catch you guys in the session. So just hit 20 minutes in the workout, so getting my first 30-gram hit of carbohydrates. So I'm gonna go with the gel to kick off with. Feeling all right, heart rate sitting around the 130 mark, which is perfect. So sitting in that zone 2, just kind of chipping away, probably around 150 watts-ish. So real cruisy, just building up those endurance kilometers, chipping away. Since come race day, I've got 90 of them to do, and then a half marathon. So especially in these early, like the first half hour, I like to keep my jumper on just to help kind of bring my core temperature up. Even if I put the fan on, I like to still kind of make myself quite warm. Just helps me feel a bit more loose, especially sitting in this TT position. Can get a little bit uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to it. So coming up to 40 minutes into this workout, feeling pretty good. About to take my next gel. That puts me up to 60 grams of carbohydrates in this hour. Now this brings me on quite nicely to one of the reasons why I was doing this video. It's because I got a question about fueling and how do I fuel these like longer brick workouts, or how do I fuel races, and how do I come up with my strategy to try and get the most out of myself to make sure I don't cramp, I don't bonk, or pretty much I just get too hungry. Now, talking from experience of an Olympic distance triathlon and a sprint distance triathlon. Sprint one, I got away with pretty much not thinking about it at all. Then in my first Olympic distance triathlon, I had a plan, but I didn't stick to it because the race was 2 loops on the bike course and then 3 loops on the run course. I decided to take in my nutrition based on the laps rather than based on the time, which is a really weird decision to make, but I made the decision. It was wrong. I suffered extreme cramps, had to walk quite a lot of the run, and overall it was a bad time. Really not a nice experience. So I went into my second Olympic distance triathlon and tried to put more of a strategy in place on how many carbohydrates I'm taking in exactly per hour, and within that hour, how do those those carbohydrates get taken in. And in regards to my second triathlon, nutrition-wise, it went really well. I only cramped up a little bit. That was because I pushed too hard. So that was more of an effort mistake rather than a fueling mistake. So I was really happy with that because I was able to go forward with what I learned in that race and apply it straight into these brick sessions, so that by the time I then get to my first 70.3 triathlon, where I have my 1900 meter swim, my 90k bike, my 21.1k run, I should hopefully have a much better strategy and plan in place to make sure that I can keep myself fueled up and working at the right intensities to help my body sustain that effort for the longest duration possible. Now, fueling calculations. So the general rule of thumb is you should probably look to take in around 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour. Now, that's kind of like your starting point. Well, that's what I saw online anyway. And after talking to a few different people in the nutrition industry, but also other racers and what their strategies were, it helped me get a good ballpark of where to start with mine. So starting out with the 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour, you want to see how your body responds to that. Is it enough? Can you easily take it on board? Do you struggle to take it on board? Do you struggle to keep it down? Does your gut start to hurt? These are all questions that you have to ask yourself and take note before you look to start increasing it. Because what we're trying to do is essentially build up our energy stores. Our body has these easily accessible carbohydrates to utilize as fuel, so we can continue to put sustained power out on the bike and the run. Once you've kind of played around with those 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour, we then say, right, can I increase it slightly? Do I feel like if I took more on board, it would do me better? Most people online will say that you want to try and bump it up. Again, to give your body more stores to access. Essentially, you also don't want to go too far where you're eating so much that becomes an issue in itself. You don't want all the blood in your stomach. You want the blood being pumped around the body, probably a lot in the legs. Now, what I done, I went from 60 grams straight up to 75 grams. Now, the reason I did that, because that was around 75% of my body weight. And that was another calculation that was online, was between 0.6 to 0.9 of your body weight in kilos, with the amount of carbohydrates you want to take in. So I was like, right, let's go half the way. So I went to 75 grams. And 75 grams, I felt really good. Had no issues, had no gut distress, didn't need to stop at the toilet, and overall it was feeling really good. As with everything, I decided to push it some more. So I'm currently at the 90 grams per hour, broken into two 30-gram portions every 20 minutes, and then another 30 grams of carbohydrates, but as a liquid, which I drink over the hour. So how do you set your carbohydrates? What I would do is use that rule of thumb. Start with about 0.6 to 0.9 grams of carbohydrates per kilo of body weight. Maybe start on the lower end and then go up from there. But have a strategy of how you take in those carbohydrates. That was probably the biggest mistake I made when I started out with this. I would just say, right, I want to get 100 grams of carbs because I had no idea. Like Haribo, some gels. I just smash them back when I feel I needed them rather than when I should take them. And that was a massive improvement in itself, having the plan of when to take it. Because I used to just smash them back when I was hungry, and then that normally means I've already gone too far when my mind started drifting towards food rather than the activity. Well, to be fair, I think about food a lot, but still, I now try to make sure that food isn't even a thought, or energy isn't even a thought. It's more about do the work and take in the nutrition when you can. Now, lastly, I'd say, what carbohydrate sources do you want to take on board? Which ones work best for you? Because that is a huge part of this. Some gels do not agree with my stomach. Some gels are very good for me. So I take them in and I want more. Those ones that I want more, I look forward to taking the gels. And taste fatigue is a thing when you don't want to be taking on any more, say, gels or food because you've had too much of it, but you need to, because you know you need to perform. So for me, I've tried a few different gels, a few different companies. I was a big fan of the SIS Beta Fuel because it was both fructose and glucose in the gel, which meant when you take it in, it's a little bit thicker. I mentioned it before on the videos, but kind of reminds me of like brown apple sauce, that kind of taste. I actually tried brown apple sauce as a fuel. It was nice, but it's a bit awkward with the spoon and the eating. It's tasty though. I've now found the ones that have been ideal for me, have not played any distress on my stomach, have been the precision fuel gels. So 30 grams of a dual source fuel. So we have those fructose and the glucose in that gel. well. Then I also have their carbohydrate mix with the 1,000 milligrams of sodium in there as well, because as you can see, I'm a sweaty mess. And I like to also take in that 1,500 milligrams of electrolytes just to really help stay away the cramping and keep my body charged up, ready to go for the full duration. So in summary, try different fuel sources in your training, so when it comes to race day, you've got no questions of if it's good for you. If you know what nutrition is provided on course on the race, try to include some of that stuff in your training. Again, it will help see if your stomach agrees with it while racing. So you want to do all these things in training. And then lastly, start around that 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour, especially if you're a bigger guy or bigger lady, and start building from there. Anyway, I'm coming up to the hour mark now, and this is when I'm going to start putting in those 10-minute race pace efforts. So that's where I'm going to be looking at sustaining in the first 10-minute block, 10 minutes at about 210 watts. Let's go. That was good. That's the last interval. Smashed that, I think. Managed to sit around that 225 to 230 watts. I will put my graph up on the screen if I can get it from Zwift, where you kind of see the bumps in power over the 10 minutes. So solid workout, really happy. Now just spin the legs out for half an hour, and then onto my run. So I'll catch you guys on the run, and after the run I'm going to break down my pre and post workout nutrition, and then also my recovery strategy to kind of help my body tick over and keep working at these higher intensities and more longer duration workouts. So I'll catch you in a bit. What a beautiful morning, nice sky. So settled in now, sitting around a 5:05 to 5:15 pace, trying to get close to that 5:15 I think, but I'd say because I've been on the downhills, I'm just feeling my rhythm. Feeling good though. Right, this is really procrastinating. It's cold, it's very cold. So overall it's been a really solid morning. Decent 2 hours 10 on the bike with those 3 10-minute efforts, then into that 30-minute run. GoPro was giving me jip and wasn't playing games, so managed a average of around 5:02 per kilometre, which was too fast, but I'm blaming the super shoes for making me run too fast. But I should have been more diligent, I think, looking at my pace, because I should have been running about the 5:15. But tomorrow I've got a long run where I'm going to wear my normal trainers, my new Brooks. Obviously now kicking off my recovery in the cold tub, shivering. Oh, it's cold. It's at 8 degrees, it said, but definitely feels colder. You might be asking, why are you filming yourself and talking while you're in the tub? Well, actually, the other day after my intervals, my run intervals, I come back and I was supposed to get in the tub, only got in up to my legs. I was a right little pussy. So today the filming for me was a little bit of accountability to not be a little bitch. Cold tub to kick off the recovery, then get myself some food, start refueling. I'm going to catch you guys in a minute for my post-workout meal. Now that was cold. So I've got my post-workout meal here. I've got my 100 grams of oats, 2 scoops of whey protein, and 15 grams of sugar puffs put on top just for a little bit of a crunch. Obviously we've discussed a lot about the intra workout nutrition, we've now got this post-workout nutrition because we want to make sure our body is still recovering and staying fueled up. I've got a full day of family stuff ahead, so I can't be sitting around on the sofa recovering. So I need to make sure I've got the fuel to push through my day and make sure I can get through it and not just be a slouch. But that's the easy bit. We do need to think about how we set ourselves up for these workouts, and that starts on the night before. So night before nutrition means you want to be having quite a carb-based meal, quite a high carb-based meal, especially if you train in the morning. You're going to be using those carbohydrates from the night before. So we really want to make sure that meal the night before has got plenty of carbohydrates to kind of help us into a big session coming the next morning. Now you saw as well, I had a piece of toast with some jam and some peanut butter. So it's just a little bump of carbohydrates. It's about 30 grams of carbs with a little bit of fat to slow down the release of those carbohydrates. Nutrition is key to make sure, one, that you perform in the session, and that you can also give your body the building blocks so that it can recover from that session. So after any of my endurance workouts, I jump in the tub, get in there for 3 minutes at a time. So the cold tub is part of my recovery protocol. Part of my recovery stuff is I make sure I get in the tub after all my big endurance workouts. I do a bit of stretching just to kind of help release some of these tight muscles that I kind of build up from my lifting and from the endurance training. But the main one that I make sure I really focus on is trying to keep my nutrients high, so keeping some good quality food coming into my body, and also getting a minimum of 8 hours sleep. So I pretty much go to bed about 8 o'clock most days, and then I'm up at 4. So it gives me a good 8 hours of sleep. Because I have a young household, I have 2 kids, one 5, one is just over 1. It means everyone has an early bedtime. So I just go to bed with everyone and make sure that I can then get my recovery in so I can get up early and get my session in. So, because it doesn't matter how many cold tubs, Theraguns, all this stuff that you might want to help with recovery, if you're not nailing the basics of getting some good sleep and good nutrition, you're kind of pissing in the wind and you're leaving stuff on the table that can really help you recovery, especially with these endurance type workouts where they do take a lot out of the body. We want to make sure we're refueling and recovering well after these workouts. I hope this gave you a good insight on how to fuel your brick sessions, how to fuel your Ironman training. A lot of it is having a strategy on your nutrition and making sure that you've got a plan and you stick to it. And then you review the plan. Did it work? What went right? What went wrong? If something went wrong, change it. But then make sure you're being present in your nutrition strategy to see how you feel. If you did find this video helpful, I would love it if you give it a cheeky thumbs up. And if you want to join me on this journey as I get more into the world of ultra endurance, don't forget to subscribe. So as always, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you guys next week.